Today we're going to go through the Granular Restore process for SharePoint Backup. We'll go through that complete process of how to mount a content database, which is that first step, and then how to complete an in-place and local restore using that mounted content database. The two documents that we're going to show as reference guide is the evaluation guide and the user's guide. The evaluation guide is very nice because it gives you screenshots and step-by-step instructions in case you ever need a refresher as to go through that process. So I guess let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with our SharePoint Backup Console, and if we click on the All Servers tab here in the tree view, it'll reload this screen. This is a backup I took yesterday for this, just to show you that the backup was already done. So now we'll go through the mount process. So let's go to the Granular Restore tab in this bottom left. We can click on Import Mount and Link in Common Task, or we can click on Mounted Databases in the tree view to get to the next section. So what we want to do first is go to the Import Mount and Link tab. It's always a good idea to do the Import Backup Sets. This is going to make sure that we load in the most recent information, and I'll show you where this comes into play in just a little bit. So now, once we've imported our backup sets, we can go to the Mount and Link Content Database. This will open up our Mount and Link Content Database wizard. So now, what we want to do is we took a backup using the SharePoint Backup tool. So we're going to select Metalogic's Full Farm Backup. As you can see, there's some other options here you can use. This is the one we're going to look at today. So we can click Next. This is going to ask you where you want to mount this content database. The mount process is going to put a temporary database out on the SQL server, the SQL instance that you designate here. This does not have to be the SharePoint, the farm SQL. It can be any other SQL box that we have access to. So I'm going to use this one for right now, just this SharePoint. So this is where that import comes in. That makes sure this list is populated with the most recent backups out there. So this is the one that was taken yesterday, and we'll select that. It then populates what content databases were included in that backup set. So the one we want to mount is this one. We'll click Next. Select a mounted database name. You can also put a description in there just for your own reference. Maybe as to what you're trying to restore or why you're mounting this content database, just in case you ever need to go back and look. So after that, it's going to pick the target farm. This comes into play because you can have multiple farms in the console, so we want to make sure you're mounting the content database for the right farm that it came from. So once we've selected that, we'll go ahead and hit Next, make sure our options are all correct, and then we'll hit Mount. And under the operation queue, we'll see two tasks here for this mount. The prepare for mount, which will start first, this is actually the unpacking of that backup set. So it's going to take that backup set and put it back into a format necessary so that we can mount it into SQL. And we'll see this one progress through. And once this is finished, it will then start the next stage. The next stage is the actual mount process in SQL. And for that, we actually engage the SQL Server and the SQL Server agent to facilitate some of that. So we need to make sure that this account here, the SQL Server, this account has access to that backup set location because it will need to grab those files and then complete that mount process into the SQL. And what we'll see if we look at our SQL Server, and let me refresh these databases real quick, we'll see this MLtemp DB content database here. This is the mount that we just completed. This is where we'll be accessing to complete that Granular Restore process. Let's go back into our backup console. So now that we're here, we can go to the Restore tab, and we'll see that mounted database here, and we'll see the content down below. So let's go into SharePoint, and we will open up our SharePoint backup site. And once it's done, we'll go ahead and we'll just delete this PDF document here. So now we have something to restore. So that document has been deleted. We'll go back into our console. We can look, here is that SharePoint backup site and everything that is contained within it. We click Documents on this side, and we'll see those documents populate right over here. The one we deleted was this What's New. So we'll go ahead and select that, because this is what we want to restore. And what we're going to do is an In-Place Restore. Now, an In-Place Restore is going to restore the document back where it came from in SharePoint, back to that same site, that same location. So once we've selected this, we'll go ahead and hit Restore, and then we'll walk through the Restore wizard. This is going to select what document we're going to overwrite, what data is there. It's going to make sure we have item options. Copy versions for list items and documents, copy all versions, or you can select the number of versions to copy to. So we're just going to copy all versions of that document. There's only one out there anyway. Copy the permissions for that document. And again, here's our summary, the document we're going to restore, what type of restore we're doing, and where that location is. So then we'll hit the Restore tab, and we'll wait a second and let this restore option complete. Now, because we can't always detect where we're going back to and everything that's going in, you don't always see progress there, but you will see that it has completed here. So now if we go back into this SharePoint and let's reload this page, we should see that What's New document right back where it came from. So the other type of restore we were going to look at is a local restore. So the local restore will select that same document, and this is accessing that content database, that mounted content database. So sometimes it does take a second to load, but we'll click on this What's New document. We'll click Local Restore. Now what local is going to do, and local works for PDF, Word docs, image files, but this is going to take the document and let you put it back on any desktop location or anywhere you designate, and we'll see where that option comes in. So now we'll go ahead and hit Next. We're again going to see this same overwrite data in the document we're going for, but now it's going to ask us for a target location. So we can actually browse and select the desktop of this machine and hit OK. And after that, it would have restored that document to the desktop. So now, if you need to grab that document quickly, you can do a local restore, email it out to your team, or whatever you need to do with it. But you have it quickly if it doesn't need to go directly back into the SharePoint. So once you've completed all of your restores, what you can do is go back into this Import Mountain link. Let's go to the Overview tab. And we'll take this restore because we want to make sure we clean up everything and clean up this mounted database off of SQL, because this does take up space. We don't want to leave that out there. So the tool will, with the delete operation of this mounted content database, we can select this and delete this operation, and in doing that, it will also delete the temporary database that we did here. And if we refresh, we'll see that it has gone away. This way we make sure to go ahead and clean up what's out there and not leave that content database just sitting there. And I believe that is everything with that restore process. Do we have any questions? What are the two most common type of backups used for mounting Granular Restore? Those would be the Metalogix backup that is used, which is this option here, and also the SQL Server backup. So we can use native SQL Server backups, the BAK files, to do that same Granular Restore process. So for that, you would select here, same, which SQL you're going to mount to. You get to search or browse for those backup files and then finish completing this process. And once it's done, the mount is exactly the same and the rest of the restore process is the same. But yes, and it will use SQL full, transactional, and differentials to complete that backup. The three type of Granular restores that are available, we have the in-place, the out-of-place, and the local. The in-place, as I showed, is going to put whatever you're restoring back into the exact location that it came from SharePoint. The local is going to let you put it onto your desktop, per se, so that you have the file directly. Now, the local is going to work with your file types, your documents, your Excel files, your image files, your PDFs. The out-of-place restore is going to let you designate a new location in SharePoint to restore that document to. So if you don't need it to go back into where it came from, but you need it to go into a different location, the out-of-place will let you do that.